Alright, we're looking at the Civil War map for HistorySimulations.com's Civil War simulation. And we're going to explain a little bit how the map works. First of all, the states and territories are all marked on the map. The blue states are the ones who have joined or remained neutral to the Civil War in the Union. And the pink ones are part of the Confederacy, or the states that seceded from the Union at this point in the simulation. You can also see that the United States is surrounded by British Canada and Mexico. The territories are a light tan color, and we'll talk a little bit about the railroad situation later on. Now, looking at armies, as you can see, for example, here we have armies in Missouri. The Missouri, the MO represents Missouri, of course, and the 110 is the size of the army. Now we've reduced the numbers down to make it more manageable for the simulation. So the size of Missouri's force in the Union Army is 110. Now we'll talk a little bit about movement and why the colors are that way, but all of the armies are represented by flags to show whether they are part of the Confederacy or part of the Union. Also, if you can look, you can see over here, Virginia is a part of the Confederacy, but they also have an army in Ohio in the Union Army, because some people went and volunteered because they believed in the Union cause, in the same way for the Confederacy. The Confederacy down here has, Kentucky has an army of 40 inside Tennessee because they believed in the Confederacy. And so you have a little mixing of states that way, so I just want to kind of explain that. Now you might wonder what all the colors represent. Well, that's how we're going to do movement in this simulation. We're trying to show how the railroad system had such a huge impact on the war. Now, of course, if you've looked through some of the materials already, you can see the amount of railroads in the Northeast and in the Union in general is much more extensive than that in the Confederacy. And so we have these railroad symbols up here like you see in Minnesota. Now that rail symbol, for example, is a 1. And so the orange means that that particular army can move one state per turn. So I can move Minnesota into Wisconsin in one turn. Just like that, because it's orange and it's an orange, so they can move each turn. Now, if you move down to a green state like Illinois, the Illinois 250, they can move all the way into Pennsylvania in one turn, because they are in a zero railroad system, which means they don't need any turns. They can move through the green railroad states all in one move. So we moved from Illinois, so we moved 1, 2, we moved 3 states over in one turn. Because there's such an extensive rail system, you can move your troops a lot faster on rail than you can moving just across land in wagons and horses and so forth. So that's kind of what the rail system does. If you look down here, the white or the 2, that means that the Kansas, for example, the Kansas Army here, won't be able to move in the first turn. So we'd have to announce, okay, the Kansas Army is moving into Missouri. So we're going to go and make them orange, so that next time when their turn comes up, they can move because they paused one turn. Okay, that's all they have to do is pause one turn. And you can see that there's a lot in the southwest of the Confederacy. There's not very much railroad here, and so it takes longer for them to move, which of course was a decisive advantage for the North. And up here also in the far Northeast, we just list those because those states are so small. All these, Vermont, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, they're all zero railroad. They have extensive railroad networks. So we just list them there to save room on the map and not make things so cluttered. The last part of the map or actually I should talk about the navies. You can see down here the Confederate Navy. We've got the Confederate flag with an anchor showing it's a Navy, and the size of the Navy, which down here is 50. And then, of course, the Union Navy over here, which is very dominant, is labeled by the United States flag, the anchor, and then the size of that Navy. We primarily use the navies for showing the blockading of the South by the Union Navy to cut off their supplies, and that's what this represents right here. We use the British flag to represent the foreign importing of natural resources, because the South has not developed very many natural resources at this point in the country's history. So they're really relying on getting natural resources through the sea. And so that's one thing that the Union side can do, is blockade the South, which of course will cut off their natural resources. Natural resources for the North primarily come from Pennsylvania. Was the most developed of all of them, and that's why they get their natural resources there. And that really represents just about everything on the map. As you can see, the territories are all #2 railroad transportation designs. And so it would take a very long time to get through the territories, because they're pretty wild and there's no railroad at all. And so movement through there would be very slow. And that will stop people from trying to just swing around to attack the South or to attack the North from behind, because that just really wasn't very realistic. So that's basically how the map works and how movement works of armies and navies. Appreciate your time.